take a look at this graph. Did you know 1 in 4 Americans have ended a friendship over politics? And that's a fourfold increase just from 2016. That's not just a stat, that's a fracture in how we see each other. Things are changing in our country and they're changing fast. And media, old and new, are playing a major role in everything from our relationships to our belief systems to how we identify, to whose team we're on, and everything in between. One of the big problems is more in the insidious and invisible ways the media, old and new, is shaping our perception of the people closest to us, our friends, our families. And it's happening in most cases without us even realizing it, all in large part because of the power of media and social media, and the power it has in polarizing us into the mindset of left versus right. And the wild part is, it often happens in a split second, over and over again, with each new viral video, viral story, headline, and so on. But we're not noticing what's happening. Before we even dig into a story, we already feel something about it, right? In a way that maybe doesn't even completely register to our conscious mind. Take this headline and image, for example, from the New York Times. The headline reads, "President's third-term talk defies Constitution and tests democracy." And the photo, President Trump in a sharp suit, red tie, and shot from an extreme low angle. That's where the camera's looking up at him, which is one of the most classic cinematic tricks that Hollywood has used for decades to portray dominance or power. Now, here's why that matters. It might take you a split second to see that image paired with that headline. And consciously, you may think you don't feel anything about it. But that's not how the mind works. When you see a low-angle shot like this, our conscious mind may or may not register, this person looks dominant. But our subconscious mind instantly links it to a deeper emotion, like tension, awe, or even fear. Just think of how many times Hollywood has used this same low-angle shot. Because a shot like this subconsciously signals that the person in frame holds authority, even a kind of looming power, meant to make us as the viewer feel vulnerable in comparison. Combine that with a dramatic headline using words like defies and tests democracy, and your nervous system already has a feeling about it. This layering is part of how visual storytelling works. These subtle and invisible cues are what creates or perpetuates perception. Now, that isn't to comment whether we think this is right or wrong, but rather to point to the reality that this kind of reporting influences what we believe. And I would even go so far as to say demands of us to pick a side. We're either for this or against it. And what about our closest friends or family? Do they agree with us? Because now we have an emotional feeling about it. It becomes personal. And this happens over and over again with each new headline or viral story. So you see, this kind of framing isn't just editorial, it's emotional. And we should all be asking ourselves, who benefits from keeping us all so emotional versus rational? Is it just profit or ideology or something else entirely? Is it organic or is it engineered? Let me know what you think in the comments. But here's the thing, this is the most powerful and most overlooked aspects of modern media. And it's not just happening in legacy outlets like the New York Times. It's happening all over social media too. On platforms like TikTok or X, that same emotional framing is cranked up even higher, where speed and virality make all the difference. Do you remember this video that went viral in July of 2025, just last month, showing an ICE raid on a California cannabis farm? Honestly, when I first saw it, my alarm bells went off because I could clearly tell the clip was starting in the middle of something, and it was something that we didn't have all of the context for. But it looked chaotic, with crowds of people dispersing, with smoke in the background, with captions about law enforcement terrorizing a group of migrant farm workers. And that was the initial narrative that spread like wildfire, that ICE had raided a farm with excessive force, targeting vulnerable laborers without cause. But surprise, surprise, that wasn't the full story. Here's the part of the story that didn't go viral. ICE was in the process of investigating the farm for suspected child labor and human trafficking. During the raid, federal agents rescued at least 14 migrant children, some working under exploitive conditions, reconciling a very different reality from what that viral clip implied. Now, the company operating the farm claimed they didn't know minors were working there, but the point is, none of that nuance was in the viral story that millions of people emotionally reacted to and shared. With even political figures using the opportunity to stoke the left versus right argument. Like this tweet from California Governor Gavin Newsom, where he says, "Kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the fields. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum." Now, why are these things happening? Why are we collectively falling into this trap again and again of reacting first and understanding later? It's because the visual and emotional storytelling goes viral first before the context, and then is further perpetuated by legacy media outlets, even politicians, sometimes celebrities, and people on social media. By the time the facts come in, if they come in at all, our brains have already been primed. We've seen the imagery, we've felt the tension, we've absorbed the framing. And all of that has started shaping our perception. And here's the thing, not everyone even gets the full context even when it is available, especially if they're locked into an echo chamber being flooded with just one perspective. Most people don't check the follow-up reporting or don't do the digging themselves to see what the other side of the story is. They move on, carrying that first impression as if it were the whole truth. And from there, they align with who they see as the good guys. And it becomes part of their identity, and opposers to that viewpoint are now the bad guys. And so the cycle continues of polarization and division. But what's the motivating emotion beneath all of this? What triggers us in such a way that our nervous system jumps into that survival mode in the first place? Well, fear. Fear is one of the most powerful emotional triggers in legacy media, and independent media too. Just notice next time you're browsing on YouTube, how often you catch a fear-based thumbnail. That's because it's been proven that thumbnails or titles evoking negative emotions like fear or anger actually outperform those with neutral or positive emotions. In psychology, there's something called the fear appeal effect. The idea that fear grabs your attention, and when paired with a clear, urgent solution, it can persuade you to take action or to support a new policy change or to rally behind your team. This actually came from a psychological study back in the 1950s. I explain a little more about it in another video that I'll link here if you're interested. So how do we navigate this media landscape that we're all living in? Between turning on the TV to opening our phones to listening to a podcast, we have influence coming at us from all angles. And when you're only seeing one slice of a story or a specific framing of that story, that framing starts to feel like the whole truth, especially when it's amplified across your feeds. Even when the facts are technically correct, what's left out can shift your perception entirely. Think back to that viral ICE raid video. The clip showed chaos, shouting, smoke, workers fleeing, but no mention of the child labor investigation or the 14 minors rescued. That's the insidious power of omission, or what's left out of a story. I explain a little bit more about it and other hidden ways media shapes our perception in my deep dive on the history of media literacy, including the godfather of media literacy himself, Marshall McLuhan. I'll link that here if you want to check it out. So just remember that when we react to what's going viral, instead of first looking for the nuance in the story, we make judgments that can deepen divides and turn the left versus right mentality into part of our identity or even civic duty. But we should ask ourselves, where is this really getting us? 26% of Americans are fracturing connections because of politics. That number should stop us all in our tracks. especially with that kind of increase in just a few years. It should really make us think what's happening in the US. It's really about something deeper. Trust. Trust between friends, trust in families, trust in communities. Americans aren't just losing trust in our institutions. We're losing trust in each other. And the media we consume plays a really huge role in that. I would argue probably bigger than most people realize. Not because it's inherently evil, but because it operates to hold our attention. And the easiest way to do that is to provoke emotion, to lean into the left versus right, and to surface a version of reality that keeps us loyal. We can't control the influx of information and media being thrown at us at all hours of the day, but we can control how we respond to it. We can pause before we react, or we can look for more information before getting outraged. We can choose connection over division. I know this is easier said than done, but I'm of the belief that the more you learn about how media influences you daily, then the easier it becomes to navigate it, because then you can see right through it. Media literacy really is a muscle, and the more you use it, the more aware you become. And honestly, the less emotionally hijacked you become. So if that resonated with you, subscribe to my channel because there's going to be a lot more coming. And also drop a comment. Let me know, did that statistic hit home for you? Have you noticed any more division in your family or friend group? Until next time, stay curious and stay grounded.